Oh, yeah. Cheers.
Hey, random, just while we're on it, there's a sugar tax in France. So all McDonald's only offer zero sugar Sprite and Coca-Cola because they're not willing to pay the tax.
Wow, what sort of rogue is going full sugar, though, when you get all the other stuff? Surely. That's the one thing you get to be like, oh, well, I've got to give myself one win. Anyway, talking about putting things in your body. Today's podcast is with an absolute legend. We actually chatted to her at the end of last week, Sarah Napthali, and her book is called My Year of Psychedelics. In her 50s, at a guess.
Yeah.
And just decided randomly basically do every psychedelic under the sun.
A really interesting chat. Obviously, it's something that I'm really interested in finding out. But I think that everyone probably has a little bit of interest in it, not necessarily on the recreational side, but the good that it can be done for healing people that can just not be healed by anything else.
Yeah, how's
like they just keep
sciatic pain?
Yeah, keep sprinting against the same medical brick wall where you get prescribed all these medications and you go through all these processes to get absolutely nowhere, and then the profound effects that people are finding off these heroic doses and guided things. And yeah, I think there's a lot to be gained from it if done properly in the right scene and setting. She is a great chat.
Spent a lot of money doing it too.
Yeah, a truckload of cash. Imagine flying all around the world to just get absolutely space cosmonauted.
I know. There was some funding randomly. So keyword will be, let's go twisted.
Just go trip.
Okay, trip. Trip for a little bit of merch potentially your way. We need your size, we need your email and address, and fire it through to the Not For Radio Facebook page. As always, appreciate the support, and you can jump into the show notes. There's a wee link tree there, and just all the links you need for everything, including the new YouTube account is all there as well.
And also the link for our first collaboration, the newfound sunglasses. If there are any pairs left.
We announced that yesterday on the inside word if you haven't caught wind of that, but they're fucking sick sunnies.
Called the Dunc. Dunc's first signature model sunglass. Fucking hell, fancy's that, eh?
Hey.
Hey, but fucking la-di-da.
Here we go, enjoy the potty.
Hello there, this is Agatha Higginsbottom, and you're listening to Not For Radio with Jay and Dunc, you fucking legends. Up the wire.
This is very exciting for myself and Dunc. I in particular very interested, very intrigued by this next subject that we're going to be talking about with this young lady, Sarah Napthali. Welcome to the show. My Year of Psychedelics, your new book. Wow, does that title just really entice some spiritual journeys through the grey matter?
Yeah, well, I sure had a few.
So give us a breakdown. Basically, what we've been told is that you explored the potential of mushrooms, psilocybin, MDMA, LSD, and other life-enhancing substances, kind of varying derivatives of DMT and the like. What was it that was the catalyst for you to do this in the first place?
To be honest, I think I was feeling a little purposeless in my job. You know, I was a public servant. Things were feeling very settled, and I was actually feeling a little bit tormented by a sense of purposelessness, you know, just existential angst. So I was really looking for some project to get my teeth into. So when this idea hit my noggin, it was like all stations a go.
Had you done any sort of hallucinogenics prior to this, or, you know, what was your recreational drug usage over, you know, like every single teen? I think we're lying to ourselves if we're not saying that everybody's had a little bit of a dabble in something along the way. What was your experience before this?
Look, I'm a major nerd, so very, very little. Medicinal cannabis for my sleep, where I'd sometimes get a bit of a high out of that. But yeah, I was coming from it with a real lack of experience that's plagued me my whole life. Like I feel like I've missed out on something, so I'm going to catch up for lost time.
Geez, what you talk about catching up? Like you've just decided to jump right in the deep end without potentially being able to swim.
Yeah, but I always protect myself with a lot of research. So I really researched the safety and set up really safe ways to do it. And as I went along, realizing that there was really no threat to me in particular, I got less and less safe. As in, you know, I would even do a trip alone, which at the beginning of the year felt like a really brave possibly even a stupid thing to do. But yeah, I've tested it out for myself, experimented on myself, and it was always like I had 16 high dose trips and not a single bad one. So yeah, by the end I was feeling pretty safe to
Yeah.
just do it on my own. And
Have you would have clearly seen Michael Pollan's work that he did. I think that is one of the greatest television series. I would call you the female equivalent of him when he went into it with a very open mind, but also a very balanced view on what could happen, what would happen, and researched it past, well, this is going to be a bloody good time. These colours are going to look pretty spectacular and those clouds will look wicked today.
yeah, well, he was totally, I mean, I should have mentioned him with your first question actually, because he put them on my radar. I read his book and I was mind blown, and I actually tried some psilocybin in my living room, but it was a little underwhelming, and I just thought, oh well, there's nothing much happening there. And then when his Netflix thing came out, I thought, okay, I'm going to try this again. I'm going to really give this a go and do it properly, get the dose right, get the right stuff, and have myself one of these experiences, or 16.
Because that's wild in itself. A lot of people, I mean, if you look at the other end of the spectrum, I think Ozzy Osbourne famously did acid for
Every day for 2 years.
every day for 2 years, and obviously it unlocked some creativity. He was probably going more down the abuse path and probably the medicinal path and trying to sort of unpack it. Out of all of them that you did, and they are all different types of plant medicine and different sort of chemicals and how they interact with your body, what was the most profound effect that you found, and from which?
Yes. Before I answer that, I should say that I'm sure if I did the whole thing again, the answer would be different. And the answer to that was a little unexpected, actually, because I was sort of told not to expect so much from MDMA compared to the others, but it turned out to be MDMA that did give me my favorite experience and my deepest and profoundest and most beautiful and insightful experience. And everyone had said, oh, it won't be MDMA. MDMA will be good, but it'll be one of the other ones that can give you, ego death and all that. Yeah, but as I said, I'm sure if I did it the whole thing again, the answer would be different.
So what are we talking? Because most people would be like, oh yeah, I've tucked into a bit of the old brown sugar before. I've had a couple of pressed pills at like a big dance festival, and it wasn't that mind blowing. Obviously got the warm on, the jaw started swinging a little bit, but it wasn't. So what was the difference, and how did you administer it, and what did you do whilst on it, which would be different to most people's recreational use of it?
Yeah, I guess for starters, calling them medicines instead of drugs, and seeing them, more importantly, seeing them as medicines, and as tools for healing or tools for spiritual experiences. A lot of people refer to it as doing it with intention. Mind you, as things have developed for me, I don't think there's anything wrong with doing it for fun and as a way to connect with your friends and have a good time. God knows we can all do with a bit of that. So I'm no fundamentalist about doing it with intention, but that is how I did it for the book. Always quite seriously and looking to get spiritual messages.
And so the first cab off the rank, I understand, was psilocybin in the Netherlands. So you jump on a plane, go over there, and who were you talking to, and how'd you go about getting the whole thing underway?
Yeah, well, I started with the legal route of retreats. So I did a retreat in the Netherlands for psilocybin. I did 5-MeO DMT, or otherwise known as bufo or toad, in Portugal, and I did ayahuasca in Costa Rica. So the retreats, there's just, in my view, no better way to initiate yourself, because they're bound to be safe. It's bound to be good set and setting, and you're bound to have a really good time. The only thing is they are super expensive, and I managed to get myself a scholarship or a half scholarship for one and a bit of a discount for the next one. But yeah, they are really expensive. But if you've got the money, it's certainly the safest way to do it, and the best way to ensure that you have a fabulous experience.
So talk us through, for the uninitiated, what would one of those retreats and one of those sort of experiences look like? Because I think that, once again, as I said at the start, I'm a massive advocate for it. I've jumped on a couple of little DMT rockets. I'm heading off on a bufo session with a couple of really good friends of mine in the not too distant future in a country where you can do it, and I'm really looking forward to it. And they send you out a little questionnaire. Well, the one that I'm going to is a questionnaire, and what is it like? They're very specific on diet, sleep pattern, relationships, both sort of interpersonal and sort of within your workplace, and what is it that you wish to get out of this, and they really drill down into it so that they can kind of guide you through it. And I think almost that in itself, most people don't stop and go, what the fuck is going on in my life in the first place, and what am I putting into my body, and how am I spending my time? That's probably the first step that anybody could make, and just doing a bit of a stock take on how they're operating, which is almost part of setting the intention for what it is that you're about to do. Similar experience for what you got?
Yeah, definitely. With the retreats, they send you quite a strict diet, and they have a few rules. Try not to watch Netflix, and no sex and no masturbation, lots of rules, and they encourage you to get lots of introspection and get your affairs in order before you come along, and those facilitators really believe that doing that gives the medicine the best chance of doing something really deep with you. Because, the medicines are not the be all and end all. A lot of people in this sphere are like that. Integration can be more important than the actual drug experience. What you do with it afterwards, when your brain's apparently got extra neuroplasticity, so it's a really good time to get some new habits bedded down while you're more plastic.
So with all the ones that you've done, so if I was just to go through, these are the chapters within it, like Dunc just said, psilocybin, which is what New Zealanders call magic mushrooms, and probably a lot of people don't understand that New Zealand probably produces one of the more high potency psilocybins. You can get them different ones from all across the world, but New Zealand has a really high potency and quite I wouldn't say aggressive, but a very forward trip that goes with that. Cacao, bufo, is it rape?
Yeah.
The tobacco blowing up your nose. Breath work. Did you find that in the breath work as well, when you were doing it with a proper guide, that you could almost feel like you'd get into a semi-transcendental state, almost similar trip-like when you were doing the breath work properly?
Yes. Especially if you'd had a psychedelic the day before, because they say that breath work can kind of finish off the loose ends of your trip, which really happened for me with bufo. Like the breath work I had the day after taking my second bufo was probably the trip of all trips. But when I just do like a holotropic breathwork session here in Sydney, it's been a bit of fun, but nothing too amazing. Although plenty of people in the room find it amazing.
Yeah, I've been in breathwork sessions where people just break down and it unravels them and they start crying and they're uncontrollably crying or sort of shaking and they don't understand what it is, sort of untying a few of those knots. Did you have any of those things within you? Were you carrying any injuries? Were you carrying any trauma that you were aware of? Did it sort of uncover and unravel anything that you didn't really know was a big deal to you?
Yeah, it did. I don't see myself as a capital T trauma person. Like I don't have abuse and neglect in my background, but both of the medicines did seem to hone in on the fact that, like many children in my generation, I was left to cry as a baby for long periods, and as a toddler too, because my parents thought that was the way to teach me how to self-settle, and that was the wisdom of the time. So yeah, two of my trips honed in on that crying baby, and kind of taught me that that's a part of myself that needs to be comforted.
And how, because these are the things, I love it that you get these little messages when you're in the DMT or when you're on the toad bufo, when you're having that session, did you get a connection with something that was something like an entity that you probably couldn't explain that was sort of guiding you around with inside that world? Do you remember that at all?
Yeah, but again, it was in the breath work the next day that I did actually meet an entity who was the Buddhist goddess of compassion, and I could feel her holding my hand. It was just the most amazing sensation. I just was really focused on my hand because I felt her hand in mine, and And I
Wow.
actually thought it was the facilitator of the group. I thought, why are both the facilitators holding my hands? And it was going on for quite a while. And then I realized, oh, it's Kuan Yin, the Buddhist goddess of compassion. Wow. And then she appeared twice at my feet as well. So I had four Kuan Yins. Yeah, that was quite a highlight of the whole year.
So it makes it. Does it? This is why I find it so fascinating. Does it kind of make you feel like you've unzipped the world in which we live in, and this is almost sort of a little bit contrived and a little bit. You feel instantly and more insignificant, but so much more enlightened at the same time. And that sounds a bit woo-woo. I know that if you listen to this, you'll be like, Jesus Christ, mate, put the pipe down. But if it's a very tricky one to explain to somebody that hasn't done it. And it's so nice to hear somebody of your standing within the community that's willing to take the leap of faith into it and look at something a little bit different, because all of a sudden it just gets destigmatized and you're not thinking of the sandalwood smelling hippie in a V-dub combi that's, just mincing around selling pewter dragons with crystals in their mouths,
Yeah. And Michael Pollan really brought it out of the fringes, I think, because he's such a dad, and he's such a science man and he's so mainstream likable. Yeah, so he de-weirded it a lot.
Can you talk us through the ayahuasca experience you had? I mean, that's had a little bit of mainstream attention in recent years. I mean, you've all heard of the Hollywood celebrities going down to do it, and it sounds like for the most part, once you do it once, people want to do it again. But doing it that way is your body goes through a lot, right?
Yeah, and I'm quite a sensitive unit, and that ayahuasca retreat, like the ceremonies were at midnight. 3 ceremonies at midnight, and we were fasting, and I wasn't sleeping, and I got headaches, and there was vomiting. So physically, it was a shocker of an experience. Although the younger people on the retreat they were fine, taking it in their stride, and mind over matter. But yeah, it was really rocking me around, but the actual trips themselves, I do it all again for the trips themselves, which were just so beautiful. Like the visuals were just incredible and really lovely spiritual messages that I've really hung on to and helped me in my daily life.
Do you reckon that there's any desire? So when most people would be looking at it as a drug as opposed to a medicine, do you have a desire to go back? It's not kind of like you're operating in those same dopamine cycles where you have it and then you need more of it the next day and then need more of it the next day. You kind of sit with it for a while, unpack what the message is with it, carry that into the future with you, try and be better, try and get those key learnings. Are you in a hurry to go back to any of them? And are there any that you've folded into like a regular routine, whether it be weekly or monthly or annually or every 6 months, that you'll be sort of wanting to go and do again?
Yeah, well, at the moment, this is so boring and middle-aged, but I'm on a medication for sleep at the moment, which is working really well. So I'm going to stay on this medication for sleep. But you're not meant to take psychedelics while you're on this medication. The only exception is ketamine. So I have been doing a little bit of ket, as they say. Yeah. So that's the only one that's staying in my life at the moment. I'd go back to each and every one of them. I'd love to do them all again one day, but it won't be for the foreseeable future because I'm sorting out too many aspects of life at the moment, and I need my sleep to do it. So,
Was this the thing that pulled on the thread of that? And it was like, well, this is something that you need to address, and you can kind of keep throwing it in the back room, but now these medicines have sort of busted that door open, and you've got to look in that room every single day and sort them out before you feel like you've moved on to the next phase in your life?
I did.
Or is this just general life admin?
Oh, I'm moving house. I've started a new job. I've got all these things that I need sleep for. So I've got to stay on the sleep medication, and once things settle, I'll go off it, and then hopefully do another retreat or just reintroduce some into my life. Not often, like I'm not an addict, but I love them. I really, really love having trips, and I'm not going to abuse it.
I think that's the thing, and that's probably the key thing that everyone's starting to learn about these things is that if it's used properly, there can be some really, really, really major advancements made in people's lives. Traditional medicine can't even get close to it. They've been doing, I think it's probably up to its 18th month now, an LSD trial here in getting people off SSRIs. And changing their depression medication. And I'm not saying that this is the only way, and I'm not a fucking doctor, everybody knows that, but they are having, I know a friend personally that's been on medication for 20 years and after 6 months on the trial is taking no medication and has never been in a better space in his life by microdosing LSD. In Australia, is it decriminalised or moving to legalise psilocybin? What's the statute level at the moment?
It's legal for treatment-resistant depression. What is it? Treatment-resistant PTSD and treatment-resistant depression. MDMA for one, psilocybin for the other. But yeah, it's getting off the ground very, very slowly because it's super expensive, and not many people have benefited from it yet. But hopefully, it'll keep advancing. But it's not doesn't seem to be making headlines here after that first major announcement. Australia, the first in the world. Yeah, it doesn't seem to have been in the headlines much at all, just because it's moving so slowly, and there's all this fear out there because the war on drugs isn't going to die overnight.
Yeah, have you noticed when you're traveling around the rest of the parts of the world where people's perception of it and their open-mindedness? I mean, you go to somewhere like Portugal where they've decriminalized everything. And you can see the different effects that has, which means that now they've got a whole new tourism thing for these retreats. There's a lot more money coming into it. It's really taken people out of the shadows. Treatment programs are much easier. They're doing things like ibogaine and psilocybin to help people that have opiate addictions, which has been quite successful. I know that there's guys in Canada that were big in the medicinal marijuana space, or even Portland, that have now almost completely sold out of that, and they've gone into what they call it, the fungal boom or whatever it is, where they're now investing heavily into psilocybin. And you can now, instead of buying a beer that has, or like an RTD that has alcohol or ethanol as the major ingredient in it for getting intoxicated, you can get psilocybin-based drinks, which that's the active ingredient, so that you can go on these sort of microdoses right up to sort of fairly heroic trips. In terms of where the rest of the world sees things, and Australia and New Zealand, how far are we ahead or behind?
Well, I would have thought that we were particularly behind, but now we're the first country. Australia's the first country in the world to. So, yeah, we're a bit of a mixed bag. But socially, I think a lot of people have long forgotten about psychedelics and just see them as bad because they're drugs, and so all that thinking's got to be dealt with.
I just want to touch on one thing. And during one of your trips, it was the pain leaving your body.
Mm-hmm. After Bufo,
Sciatic pain.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah. I had pain going from my lower back down into the back of my thigh. It was only if I sat for a long time, so aeroplane trips, or long car trips, or and yeah, that pain did disappear from Bufo, only for 3 weeks, and then it came back, and then I did MDMA, and it disappeared for about a year, and then it came back.
Wow.
So I've met a few people that use psychedelics to treat pain, but it's not. It's usually not once and for all. It might go for a really long time, but it might come back again. But yeah, if it's a medicine that cures something for you, I mean, I've heard that it cures things that relate to storing trauma in your body, and if the psychedelic can release that trauma, then you're relieved of that pain. But if it's a more mechanical sort of pain because you from repetitive strain, then it's less likely to be addressed by psychedelics.
Hey, what did your friends and family think of this? Did they go, "Oh Jesus, the cheese has slid right off her cracker now. She's absolutely away with the fairies."
Yeah, my birth family, sister's mother, and all that, they would rather not talk about it, please. It's the sort of elephant in
Yes.
the room, and so we don't talk about it. And they won't be reading the book. And um, my sons and my ex-husband, who I'm still quite close to, they're totally on board and totally encouraging. And yeah, friends. I tend to choose good friends, and yeah, they're all on board, and yeah, they haven't most of them haven't really engaged yet, but we'll see what the future holds.
Would you go on one of these trips with your sons, for example? Would you embark on one of these medicine journeys with them? And have they tried? I don't know what their ages are. They
They're
might be 5 years
adults.
old. It could be a bit interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, they're adults. Okay, sweet. Yeah, fine. That makes it way easier. Have they done this, and have you thought about doing it with them?
Oh, look, you know what guys in their 20s are like. They don't want to go overseas with their mum on yeah, taking psychedelics and tripping. Yeah, so I'd love to do it with them, but I don't think it'd be reciprocated. Yeah.
And I guess to wrap it up, after doing this for a year, and you mentioned at the start that you felt like your life was lacking purpose. Has this given you more purpose or direction? Has it filled a hole that was there before? Yeah. How are you mentally now?
Yeah, well, it sure gave me purpose for that year, but I have to admit that once that year was over, it left this vacuum. It's like, oh my God, now what am I going to do? This really fun project. I felt like an actor might feel or a sportsman might feel when, they've got their gold medal and now what? So that started quite a crisis, which coincided with a breakup and moving house and yeah, so I had to sort of rebuild my life again, but I think psychedelics gave me a lot of tools to do that. Like, it's made me much more spiritual. Although I've always been a Buddhist, I'm a totally different kind of Buddhist now. Like, I was a real atheist Buddhist, and now I'm a very spiritual Buddhist. And that has helped me through the good times and the bad. And yeah, um, I do
There's
feel more sense of purpose. Actually, I think most people that do these medicines with intention come away with more of a sense of purpose, and it's not grandiose either. I'm going to save the world, so much as we're all connected. Why don't we all just love each other, man?
Yeah. And do you feel like you sweat the small stuff less now?
Oh, look, I can get caught up in that sort of rush, sweat the small stuff. Things get on your nerves, but again, I've got more self-awareness and tools to help me deal with it. So it, there's more of a spacious feeling around it than a constricted, over-identified feeling around daily stresses.
Yeah.
Have you seen the guy who goes by the name of Buffalo Warrior, and he is doing an ultra running, he's doing endless marathons basically whilst on hallucinogenics.
No, it sounds fascinating.
Basically, yeah. Yeah, he wants to be the first person to run I think it's like a 300-kilometer ultra run on the whole time on hallucinogenics. I think he might be on psilocybin for the whole thing. But he's the same sort of thing. He's like, I reckon that if you push your body to the absolute limits while you are there doing this, because no one's really tried to extend the physical part of the body while that part of the body is being stressed as well or opened up. So it'd be interesting to see. I don't know. I thought you may have come across some of his stuff that he's doing.
With follow, he's only got, what's that?
23,000 followers at the moment.
That'll blow up
Buffalo Warrior.
on the way.
I'll definitely look that up, but I can't say I relate because every time I took them, I was flat on my back, tripping. So I can't imagine running. And yeah, I didn't have many eyes open trips.
Sorry, it's called the documentary is called Dante, the man running 500 miles on psychedelics.
Wow.
Unreal.
Where's that available?
Jeepers creepers, it says it's coming out in 2025, so that is one hell of a watch, I'd say.
I'm in.
Sarah, thank you so much for having a chat to us. Yeah, it was awesome. It's a hell of a project you went on. It's even more amazing that you managed to, do the book and stuff after. And yeah, just awesome to spend some time with you.
Thank you. It's great to speak to people who are enthusiastic about it.
Yeah, thanks for taking the stigma out of it. It's you will be looked upon as a trailblazer in years to come, and it might probably seem a little bit out there now, but this will be a conversation that happens around most dining room tables, I reckon, within the next 10 years. If people want and are purely interested in somebody being better, then having a look at every single option that's out there is, I think, the only way of doing it. And I know a lot of people that operate in this space and they've never been better, and they've cut out all the other vices which were absolutely destroying them, but are legal and huge tax earners for governments around the world.
Yeah. I've known people take psilocybin and give up smoking without even intending to. They just never wanted to smoke again after taking psilocybin.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Well, I'm just going to go munch some mushrooms and have a couple of ciggies, and we'll catch up with you in the not too distant future.
All right. Thank you. Have a good weekend.
It's good fun. Bye.
See ya. Bye.